Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey, everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. If you like what you are hearing, please do us a favor and click that subscribe button. It really helps us get this message out to as many people as we possibly can. If you do share it, tag me, and I'll be sure to share your post on my platforms. And again, that'll help us spread the word to help others get to where they're going. So tonight, the background is probably a little unfamiliar to you, and it should be. I'm coming to you from my hotel room in Washington, D.C., and when I began this whole entire podcast, I told you I was going to do this thing messy. So tonight, we're going to do it messy. I'm working off of a lamp here with my lighting and my microphone that's on my MacBook. I hope is picking up the audio quite a bit, or good enough. But tonight, I wanted to talk about leading yourself. And I believe that you must lead yourself before you can lead others. And here's why. How if you don't know where you're going, you don't have direction for yourself, you may not have those communication skills, the problem-solving skills that leaders have for yourself. If you find yourself constantly getting behind, constantly finding yourself in a negative mindset, or maybe you're just in that spot where you can't get any motivation, how are you going to lead others? So that's what I mean by you need to be able to lead yourself before you can step into the world of leading others. And I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks. One of my favorite things that I hear people say is, I'm not a leader, I'm more of a X. And you can replace X with, I'm not a leader, I'm more of a creator, I'm a creative mind, I'm creative. I'm not a leader, I'm more of a subject matter expert. Or here's my favorite one, I'm not a leader, I'm more of a follower. Well, all three of those things I can spin around, and I'll tell you, there's creative leaders, there's those people that you put in front, you give them an idea, or you just, paint a direction on where they need to go, and man, the juices start flowing. There's experts that are leaders in their fields. When you look at the long history of any subject matter, whether it's law, whether it's medical, whether it's now, the social platforms and social media, there's experts in that vocation that are leaders. And then I don't know of any leader, to be honest with you, that hasn't been a follower. A lot of times you got to follow in order to know what it's like to lead. When I hear that, I always ask, well, tell me more. Tell me why you think you're more of a creative mind instead of a leader. Because a lot of times what happens is we're not convinced ourselves that we're leaders when we're out there leading on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing you got to do is tell yourself, I am a leader. You have to see yourself as a leader. When you look into that camera, when you look into the mirror, when you look into whatever you're looking into and your reflection is peering right back at you, you need to tell yourself that you're a leader. And it might sound corny. Trust me, you get in front of a mirror and you start talking to yourself, and your significant other may get you committed. But it works. It works, people. I promise you, when you get in front of yourself and it's that positive self-talk, I am a leader. You start to believe it. And a lot of times, that is 75% of the battle when it comes to leadership. When you start, that self-talk, that negative, I'm not a leader, I don't do anything right, today's not my day, this year is not my year. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. What happens? We live it out. We start to believe it. So what I want to do is change that narrative. I want to change the narrative in your mind that says, I am a leader, and then belief will come. That's the first thing that we have to do to lead ourselves, is we have to see ourselves as leaders. The second thing, and really this is a two-part, and I've talked about this before, you have to know your own values. What are your values when it comes to John as a person? What are the things that people tell you that they value in you? So that could be your trustworthiness. That could be you always remaining calm in the face of adversity. It could be things that you value in, yourself that include, I never talk bad about people. I'm always positive. I always try to maintain a positive attitude. I'm optimistic. Okay, so you have to know, again, this is a lot of introspection. This is a lot of self-assessment. You have to know your values before others can see the value in the relationships that you bring. So that's the second piece. If I don't understand and I don't believe that I'm a trustworthy person, when I go into a relationship with another person or persons, how are they okay to believe that. It goes back to the first thing where I have to believe what I am first before others can see that in me. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to leading yourself is you have to know your strengths, your blind spots, and your gaps. So how do we do this? Again, it's a lot of self-assessment. Strengths, I always tell and coach people, write down a list, piece of paper, get a pen and pencil, and write down the top 5 strengths that you believe that you possess. Okay? Then take that list and go validate it with 5 other people. It could be a significant other, it could be a peer, it could be another team member, it could be a supervisor or somebody that's above you, but go validate it with 5 other people and ask them, these people, they need to be, forthright, they need to be honest with you. And I'd start the conversation that way. Hey, I'm doing a little introspection here. I'm trying to identify some of my strengths. I've identified these 5. Do you see them as my strengths? Because it's their perception. And that's going to nail you down probably to 2 or 3 because you're going to start crossing a couple off the list there. And that's fine. That's the goal of this exercise, is to come away with those core strengths that not only you, but others see in you. And then what I want you to do is build upon those strengths. I do a lot of feedback sessions, and I focus almost 99% on people's strengths. I believe that if we can focus on other strengths and build on those, enhance those, give them information, give them the tools, whether it's training, advice, whatever that looks like, mentorship, to build those strengths, those weaknesses will begin to fade away. So that's why you don't hear me say strengths and weaknesses. You hear me say strengths, blind spots, and gaps. So we've talked about strengths. So where are your gaps? Gaps, go back to your list of 5. If you identified a strength and the 5 people that you talk about didn't see that strength like you did, that's a gap. The perception of yourself versus the perception of others, that's the delta, and we're always trying to close the gap. If I see myself as a strong communicator and 3 other people that I talk to didn't see that as a strength, that's a gap, and I know I need to work on that. So again, it gives me an idea of where I need to work for. And then my blind spots are things that people see maybe are strengths in me. So that 5 people that you go to, again, they say, John, you didn't have on here that you were a really good communicator, but every time I come to you with a problem, you're a great listener. You always give great advice. I like the way that you're positive and you talk to others. You didn't identify that, but they saw that in you. That's a blind spot. That's also an area for us to recognize ourselves as a strength. So the 3 things I want you to focus on when we talk about leading yourself are: 1, see yourself as a leader. Get in front of that mirror, tell yourself, I am a leader, and believe it. Say it again if you don't believe it, and then say it again until you start believing it. The second piece, know your values, and then what value you bring to your relationships with others. And then third but not least, your strengths, your gaps, and your blind spots. Be able to identify those. Those are where you're going to work on. Those are where you'll seek professional, whether it's mentorship or coaching help in. And a lot of times during those sessions, they're going to ask you, where do you want to start? Where do you see yourself? What's your goal? What do you want to get out of this? Guess what? You've already created that list of strengths, gaps, and blind spots that you can share with that person. And then you already halfway through that first session and on the road to strengthening those again. I hope this helps somebody. Have a great week this week. Go be great. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.